Noob D&D Dad here. We are going to talk about my son and my friend's group that I'm DMing for, because I am DMing for actually 3 if you count the little kid campaign. But my son and his friend and cousin, or my friend and his cousin, and the Army veterans group, and then a little kid group of 3, 5, and 9-year-olds. So this is going to be talking about my son and my friend's group, sessions 26 and 27, in which they face off with this guy. GORTHOK, the thunder boar. He's actually pretty strong. For the veterans group, I actually plussed him up, but for these guys, I left him original. But we're going to talk about how we got there first. So a few notes on where they are in the campaign. I think they're long resting in the forest at this point. They're currently at 5th level, and they've done 1 quest from the job board, and so they need to do 1 more quest from the job board in order to level up. But spoiler alert, that's going to change here in a second. As in, we're not going to stick to that because of how intense events get. Also, coming up in future video, if you remember my son's cousin got turned into a wererat. So I've been having to track when the next full moon will be. And as of session 26, the full moon is in 2 days. If you don't know what that means that he is going to turn into a full wererat under my control. And I have some chaos planned. So I do like in this Dragon of Icespire Peak how it has these encounters that they encounter on the way to a place. So they're on their way to the Circle of Thunder, but they encounter this cool tree trap with like a scary tree with like still beating pig's heart, and there's like vines that attack them, or it's actually roots. But one thing I like is they're traveling along, and I like to have all the nature noises stop. So right now you can actually hear in the video maybe a bunch of nature noises, but in the story I like there to be the birds stop chirping and it just goes totally silent, and then they see this creepy tree and they have to sit there and try and figure it out. Anyway, so they end up doing the sorcerer. My friend casts the detect magic, so they discover that it's an evil ritual thing going on, and they fight it, and the roots erupt, and they have to make a saving throw, and I think one of them gets hurt, but eventually they kill the thing, right? They destroy the scary trap. And in this case, after they destroy the tree and the evil, or they destroy the little still beating heart, the tree falls down, and then the roots that had erupted and started attacking them, they turn into ash. And to cap it all off, the birds start chirping again. So I just have fun with this. Next up, we encounter Yargoth's patrol. He's one of these lovely fellows, Anchorite of Talos. We're going to see more of those coming up. But it says to do, so Yargoth and Anchorite and a band of orcs. So 2 orcs per character, including sidekicks. So the party is only 3 characters, but at this point they have the centaur Xanth with them. So that's 4. So there's 8 orcs and this guy. So actually quite a challenge for these level 5ers. So a battle ensues, and they're just range attacking each other across this big ravine and wearing each other down. And eventually I have each of the orcs start charging, right? So they're getting closer and closer and closer. And my son had previously found the treasure item, the necklace of fire beads. So they decided that it was in their best interest to launch that thing, and so I think he threw the whole necklace. And the way that it works is it multiplies what level of fireball it is by how many beads you throw. So he threw it and did a full-on skadoosh move and killed 7 orcs. And they had previously killed the main anchorite who had lightning bolted them. And there was 1 orc who didn't charge. I think it's because his boss was already dead and he had an arrow stuck in him. And so I have him put his arm in a sling and break the arrow off so it's just a stick and just walk off into the trees. And because he just decides that it's hopeless. So he just leaves. And I think it'd be fun to have that orc come back later. They find him again some other time. So I'm always creating these little things that I'm like, this will be cool if they find later, but it's like, I hope I remember this. Sometimes they remember it, which is like, oh yeah, that guy. Yeah, you definitely encounter him again. So they loot the bodies, and they get the book has them get a potion of greater healing, and they also get 70 electrum. Yeah, I had them roll a D100 on the DM guide loot chart, which I love. Okay, so they can see the slight hill rising of the Circle of Thunder in the distance, and there's dark clouds forming above it, right? So it's definitely not natural, and it's ominous. At this point, they are kind of hurt, so they take a short rest in the forest and use some hit dice. All right, so they make it to the, what's it called, Circle of Thunder, and on top are 2 anchorite people wearing boar heads dancing around a fire with a bunch of twig blights dancing around them. And there's 8 twig blights, because again, I think they have you multiply however many based on how many the players are. So one thing my son's party does a lot is they really communicate with each other to plan like ambushes. And so they sit there and go through and they're like, okay, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? And if the cousin can't be there, they just run his character for him. So like, what would he do? So they start out by, I think my son, Ray of Frost, the fire, just put it out, because they're thinking if it's needed for the ritual, they should just try to stop the ritual, because they're guessing, they don't know, but they're guessing that they don't want this ritual to be completed. And then they just launch a full volley of attack, put out the fire, start the battle. And of course the anchorites have 1 use of lightning before they have to recharge. Now Gorthok the Thunderboar shows up when these 2 guys die. And this guy is a serious foe. So I think the thing that gets him is the resistances and then the multi-attack. And these guys are not too strong right now, so he has a lightning bolt that could possibly recharge, and then thunder hooves and lightning tusks. Long story short, these guys start getting stomped. We got people dropping to 0 hit points all over the place. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna kill my whole son's party. So TPK, as they say, total party kill. And my wife is like, do not kill your son. And I'm like, well, if it wasn't me, it was the boar that killed him. Anyway, the battle gets intense. People are dropping, they're running over and dramatically healing each other to stabilize each other. The Thunderboar does some giant attack, and it kills all the remaining twig blights. So at this point, we're lucky that nobody got massive damage, which is their max health negative, which would be an instant death. But like, I got to the point where I had to seriously be like, okay, do I need to serve the story and the character of Gorthok, or do I need to protect this party? And I felt like I did a pretty good job, because they were just getting like stomped, and one person was like unconscious, and there was another character that was, I think it was Xanth, the NPC, and I'm like, okay, if he attacks this character, they will die. Like, it will be death. Because I think they were already in death saving throws or something. Anyway, so I had him attack the other guy, and I had to invent character reasons why he would do that. But the point is, these guys were getting stomped, and like my son went and saved the warrior character, or the fighter character, and then he ended up dying, and then I think it ends with one character having only 7 hit points and everyone else like in death saving throws. So he has on his person a healing kit, which lets you stabilize somebody, and it has 10 uses. So at this point in the campaign, the point where we are right now, not the point that I'm talking about, like several sessions ahead, because I'm behind on the videos, I think we only have 5 uses of it left. But they're so cheap, and I guess you can find them at the store. So my friend that's playing in my son's group keeps accusing D&D 5e of being soft, and he might be right. But this session, though, where they're doing death saving throws, I think that changed his mind a little bit. Well, I hope it did. Anyway, they finally wear down this Thunderboar just by doing little bits of damage on it, and the way that he dies is starting to be a trend here. So the fighter, he does some massive roll and cuts the head off, and that's how it's been. So the 2 magic people do all these little attacks and fire bolts and witch bolts and stuff and wear it down, and then the fighter comes in and just finishes it off. So he's kind of becoming the decapitator. He's decapitated a lot of creatures at this point. All right, so that is sessions 26 and 27. They obviously have to do a long rest here, but in the next session, I'm going to have them level up early. So this is a side quest. It's not a job board quest. And the book says that after 2 job board quests that they can level up. So I actually have them level up to level 6 because they all almost died fighting this thing. And like I did with the other group that is totally not in the book, when Gorthok the Thunderboar dies and he disappears, I have there being a young, magically asleep damsel wearing clothing from 200 years prior. just like asleep on the ground that just becomes like a mystery and a problem that the party has to deal with. So more on this group coming forward. I'm trying to do videos updating all of these different groups that I'm DMing for. I have now been DMing for 1 year, and I'm having an absolute blast. So let me know what you think, and I always love advice, and I use the advice in my games. So spoiler alert on the next army veteran group that I'm going to DM for. The next session that I'm going to talk about is the one in which they fight Cryovane the dragon in Phandalin, and they're really strong. And if you saw my community post, you know what happens. So stay tuned for that, and thanks for watching. Noob D&D Dad out.